Simon, I'd ask you this as proceedings go on at 11 minutes past 11 this Tuesday morning. What profile of an owner nowadays doesn't taint the image of the Premier League? We're going to be hearing more later today from the Chief Executive of the Premier League, Richard Masters, because they have an open day, if you like, a bit of a Premier League launch later on today. I think Peter Carruthers is going to attend that for us from talkSPORT. But Richard Masters, I noticed, Simon, didn't quite answer when he was asked a question. Many of the newspapers have picked up on it this morning, when he was asked whether or not the league had been tainted by Roman Abramovich's ownership of Chelsea. He was asked if the 19-year Abramovich era had been good or bad for the Premier League's reputation. This was his reply. It was interesting. He says it's difficult to say now with hindsight that it's all been good, obviously, given what has transpired over the last 6 to 9 months. But I think if you ask Chelsea fans, they'd give you a different answer. The situation we ended up with has given the sport some challenges we've got to meet, and that's part of the owners and directors test. What about this, Simon? He says ultimately there wasn't an owners and directors test when Abramovich took ownership of Chelsea. So I suppose the answer to the question is, had that been in place, what might have happened?
Oh, that's a stupid answer, because nobody could have ever forecast that Roman Abramovich, when he walked through the door, there should be no blame attribution or looking back at the situation saying, well, that's a failing, because nobody in their right mind would ever have assumed that a guy buying a football club would subsequently be privy or party to a person that's launched a war in Europe. So it's really a silly question for him to even give any credence to. The answer is Roman Abramovich. If you want to nuance it and say,
not really, Simon.
Well, it's a silly question, because
Abramovich wasn't the guy that they thought he was 19 years ago.
Well, what guy was that then? The bottom line is nobody. Abramovich wasn't the guy that they thought 6 months ago, because, Putin hadn't invaded Ukraine. So with that in mind, what did they think he was? They knew what he was. They know what a lot of these owners are. People make money in various guises and various spaces. He's a robber baron from Russia that made a lot of money out of the taking back of the energy sector from governments at ridiculous prices and profited enormously out of it. As a definition of robber baron.
And they knew that. That was known 19 years ago.
But when we talk about fit and proper persons test, would he have passed the fit and proper persons test in August of last year? The answer would be, in other words, probably yes. And the reasons why he wouldn't pass the
because it's pre-war.
Because it's pre-war. The whole landscape has changed. So the question is twofold. Right? Is Roman Abramovich a force for good in the Premier League? The answer is no. He created hyperinflation. He changed the landscape of football to a level that it never needed to get to. So there was no natural growth from broadcast revenues and generated revenue. It created a landscape of people coming in and firing enormous amounts of money at football for different reasons than football. For Chelsea fans, he was a godsend.
Sure.
So they will, of course, have that perspective. But you're talking as the chief executive of the Premier League, you're talking about the Premier League and all its parts. So the answer is probably no. The flip side of that is that, was he a force that was bad for the Premier League rather than just one that wasn't good?
And was he?
As a capitalist, I would suggest that anybody that wants to invest in a business that creates an opportunity for that business to prosper or to be successful is somebody that's doing something that's good. The challenge with football is because of the collective relationships where you've got other football clubs that are affected by the spend pattern, players' wages being driven up by one club's propensity to pay what anyone is prepared to ask for. It has the filter effect of then creating this downward pressure on everybody else, whether it's the Premier League clubs, whether it's the Championship clubs, and so on and so forth. So he created a hyperinflation at the same time as brought the appetite for more people to invest in football in his country. So it depends what you think the investment has done for English football. So has it made it a better place? Is English football and the culture of English football something that we can really admire at times? I don't think it is. I think it's all become about money. It's all about money. We seem to talk about these figures.
But it was all about money when you owned Palace.
But it really wasn't. There was a balance between... Everything's about money in the end. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
Right? But there was a balance between everything being about money rather than it being about sport. We know that the top sports players get top money, but we've now moved into territory of it's not top money, it's F-off money, and they can tell everybody to F off as a result of getting it. And it's in that territory of getting to the point where I think it's unacceptable. And I think the architect of that, and people say, hold on a second, you. Don't be xenophobic, because the architect before that was Jack Walker, because he did it at Blackburn. And there is an argument to that extent that he started that particular fire. But this guy... and then the next guy at Man City took it to the next level. And so here we are
So
in a
do they
hyperinflated...
taint the image of the Premier League? Did
No.
Abramovich taint the image of the established league?
No,
here?
because they made it more accessible. If we believe that globalization is a good thing, and I have mixed emotions about it, if we believe that the most successful football sports league in the world, bar none, is as a result of the investment criteria around the globe, from the Americans, from the Middle East, from the Russians, from the Egyptians, from whoever else, whatever creed and ethnicity we brought into the mix, and whoever's money it is, which is all the same colour, then you have to turn around and say, from a capitalist point of view, the Premier League is the greatest import in sports formation and authority and leagues around it eclipses the NFL, it eclipses everything.
Give me an owner that doesn't taint the image of the Premier League.
But it depends what you mean by taint, Jim. Because
we'd agree you could argue
John
that
Henry
Abramovich
is a
probably did.
brilliant
John
owner.
W. Henry, I was going to say, was in my mind. I must
okay,
admit.
then how about he tainted it by allowing his club to be indexed to the ESL? How about he tainted it by deciding that he was going to take a furlough for his staff, which, by the way, I think he was fully entitled to do? How about he tainted it with some of the observations that he's made in the past about certain things at Liverpool? So you could turn around and say, everybody at some particular point has done something that, if you want to scrutinise it, you could say, well, that's a taint. That's not 100% perfect. There's no such thing, is there? Nobody will now say that potentially, if the Leicester owners don't invest in a football club, continue to invest in their football club, they could be perceived by the Leicester fans as tainting the image of Leicester inside the Premier League.
Could be argued that you started the tainting.
Oh, I stank the place out. I was the original tainter.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.